if you have a painful experience and you process it well, it's not trauma. It just makes you wise and empathetic and strong, and it increases your capacity and your empathy and your wisdom. Now, if you do not process a painful experience successfully, then you have a trauma. Dr. Wilder and I, our assessment is the number one place it breaks down. I mean, it's more than we have time to discuss all the
Right.
details, but there's a number of tasks you need to succeed at, and the number one place things fail is when you're in a painful experience, you lose your relational circuits. So you no longer can feel your community or your friends and family or God with you. You feel isolated in the painful
Mm.
experience, and that's to make a long story short. That's one of the most common ingredients in trauma, and that's the most common place the processing breaks down. And that's kind of the most common, you almost could say, cause of, or it's the first piece of sort of trauma unfolding
Yeah.
is for your relational circuits to go off and to feel isolated in the pain, as opposed to this is bad, but I feel I'm in community and I can feel the presence of God. So
Yeah.
almost all trauma includes the actual experience of the trauma includes your relational circuits going off. And that's actually a part of what's carried in the memory for that trauma. So guess what happens when that trauma gets triggered and loaded back into your active like computer RAM? When that memory gets triggered and loaded back into the content of that memory comes forward and feels true right now in your current experience. Almost all the content of that trauma almost always includes your relational circuits being off. That was a part of the original trauma, and when it gets triggered and loaded forward, that's a part of what comes forward.
Yeah. Okay. So each time we have that trigger experience flashing us back, we feel usually if we haven't processed it well, you said we're feeling kind of isolated. So we're wanting to withdraw from people, withdraw from God. Is that how that plays out?
You're not going to think about withdrawing. It's just
Okay.
that there's a relational mode, Carl, and there's a non-relational mode, Carl. Like when my circuits are off, I'm really a different person in a very profound way
Mm.
than when my relational circuits are on. When they're on, I actually when your circuits are on, you want relationship. You can feel the desire for
Yeah.
relationship. And any person that's with you that you feel connected, it feels like a resource that you feel joy being connected.
Mm.
It feels like a community that you want to be a part of, and you can perceive their true heart and you feel compassion for them. When your circuits are off, just the way your brain spontaneously works, there's no choice involved. It's just the way it's wired. If your circuits are off, you do not feel desire for connection. You don't feel connected, and you don't even feel the desire for it. It feels like I've done I did this lab myself. I mean, I started my healing journey to my profound, um, sobering, humbling, horrifying discovery that I was subtly triggered and my relational circuits kind of dim, almost off or off most of the time. And I had learned to be obedient. My left hemisphere was very strong. I was very productive. I tried to choose to obey all the things that the Bible teaches. I would choose to try to be a life-giving person. I would choose to not be malicious. I would be, you can be honest with your relational circuits off. You can work hard. You can not do most of the, you can keep most of the 10 Commandments just by choice with your relational circuits off, but you don't feel connected, you don't feel joy, you don't feel community, you don't feel a desire for community. The circuits that do empathy, like the spontaneous, compassionate empathy thing, those are your relational circuits. When you're off, you can know you're supposed to do it, but it just doesn't flow, and
Mm.
you can fake it. You can try to make yourself do what you're. I know I'm supposed to be empathetic to my wife in this situation because my marriage counselor told me I was like, this is a place where this is a part of the story where I should be offering empathy, and you can kind of try to simulate it just by like behaviorally, but it's not real empathy because your relational circuits are the core of the engine that does empathy, and without them, you can kind of fake it, even good-hearted.
Hmm.
But any person on the receiving end is like, in fact, Charlotte and I have had this conversation. Sweetheart, I can tell you're trying to empathize with me. I appreciate the effort. I mean, I appreciate that you're trying to do the right thing, but your relational circuits aren't on. And it's like, it's why
Hmm.
don't we take a break and fix that? And then I will really appreciate real empathy.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So if we
we have
think about this
actually,
in kind of a reverse engineering way, then So if I find myself, I'm on the field and I find myself in this dry, burned out type place, a question I might want to ask myself is, are my relational circuits off? Where's this coming from?
If you consulted me, if you paid for a consultation about, hey, Dr. Carl, I'm in this, I feel dry, I feel numb, I feel disconnected, I feel lack of joy, I'm just all those things. The number one thing the first thing I would do would be to talk about relational circuits.
Mm.
I'd explain them and say, okay, let's go through in the Outsmarting Yourself book. There's a list of questions, a very practical checklist. Like, do I feel like I want to be connected? Do I feel connected? Am I able to offer empathy? Can I
Mm.
see a person, my spouse's true heart? Do I feel compassion for them? Do I feel like, are they an ally that I want to work with, or are they a resource or problem to be fixed? There's a whole list of questions that are pretty straightforward. And the book includes like a whole page of examples of this is exactly what it would look like in the actual world as an example for
Mm-hmm.
each of them. And to learn about relational circuits and then be able to learn to recognize when they're on or when they're off. That's the first thing I would talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So this is good. Not only this is good for our human relationships and for our relationships with the Lord. So like I'm just thinking, what if that's me? What if I find myself in that place and I'm like, all right, I guess my relational circuits are off. Where do I go from here with God and
Now
with
what?
others? Yeah.
So one is deliberate gratitude. You can you can choose to think about a positive memory,
Mhm.
picture it in your head, like kind of close your eyes, imagine yourself. There I am, at my high school graduation with my best friend, or there I am, you know, on my wedding day with Charlotte. There I am when we were in the Grand Canyon having this beautiful, fun nature experience together. You picture it, and then talk about the details until you can feel the memory,
Mhm.
and especially focus. And the point is to focus on the things you're grateful for. Entering into a specific memory that actually happened to you neurologically, that's especially powerful. And
Mm.
then you stay with it and focus on the details until you start to feel gratitude.
Okay.
Now, there's a verse about the sacrifice of praise.
Yeah.
Now, this will feel like a sacrifice because when your circuits are off, you don't want to go to a positive memory. You can't feel that it's going to help. Your internal response is, like it's a waste of time. That's stupid. I don't want to, and it's hard to find them.
Yeah.
And when you do find them, for the first 5 minutes, you can't feel it. It's obedience,
Okay.
which the the more you do it and prove it works, you'll trust me more. But at first, it's particularly hard because it's a faith walk. It's like when your circuits are really off, you don't feel like you want to. You can't feel that it's going to work. It's just like it's pure obedience. I'm going to do this crazy brain thing Dr. Carl said. Close your eyes, enter the positive memory, focus on the details until you can feel the memory. And it helps. It's especially effective if you can talk to another person about it.
Okay,
But
Carl, this makes perfect sense to me because I'm picturing so like I got some really big hard news a couple days ago and it threw me and I felt a little bit like I'm disassociating for a second. I'm sure my relational circuits were offline. My heart was racing and I was like what's happening? And so I felt that disconnection that you
yep,
talked about. And I
yep,
remember just kind of sitting there for a little bit, kind of dazed. And I will say the biggest way that I was able to pull myself back in, it was with another person. It was with my husband, Danny. And we actually did exactly what you're talking about. We went back. I always think about, you know, the Israelites where God was like, go back and remember what I did for you. And so we
yes,
went back to these places of
yes.
God's faithfulness and together talked about those, felt those. And for me, it was even more powerful doing it with him instead of by myself because we got to stir each other up and got to this place where I
Yes.
felt settled, peaceful, and probably back online. I wouldn't have known what to call it at that point, but back
I can,
online.
I can promise you, if we could go back in time and I could be with you in the room, at the front end of that, while you were all upset before you did your gratitude thing, we could go through the checklist. I can promise you, there would be no, 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 no. Your circus would have been
Yeah.
off. And yeah, you describe exactly. And
Mm.
there's a whole section of, let's see, it's the big line book. There's a whole chapter on how God designs our brains to work best in
Yeah.
community? I mean, your brain is actually designed to work best in community. One of the ways in which that's true is when you share with another person any content, like you're remembering something, you're connecting with a positive memory,
Mm-hmm.
and you're describing the details that you appreciate most. As you describe it to another person, it actually pulls it through your brain in a way that helps you feel it more intensely
Mm.
and recognize its importance more powerfully. It's just the way your brain's wired. So what you just described there would be one of the absolutely Dr. Lehman's prescriptions of how to get your relational circuits back on. With another person, think about a positive memory or a series of
Yeah.
them and focus on the pieces that you're grateful for until you feel gratitude. And
That's
the way
good.
your brain is wired is it's impossible to feel grateful and stay in non-relational mode at the same way. At the same time, you're wired so that if you do this specific positive memory until you feel gratitude, as you feel gratitude, that will bring your relational circuits back on again. It's the way your brain's wired.
Hey, missionaries, I've got a question for you. How are your finances on the field? Also, are you feeling supported by your senders? At Modern Day Missions, we make it simple for missionaries to receive donations and for their donors to give. As the largest independent missions organization in the U.S., we process donations from more than 1,100 missionaries to and from countries all over the world, helping them get on the field and freeing them to focus on what they're called to do. And we also create and connect missionaries to resources that help them flourish on the field, like this weekly podcast, fundraising coaching, and our resource-packed newsletter. So connect with us at modernday.org to explore our free resources and discover how we can serve you. We're so glad you joined us today.